I'm Dave Cawley, investigative journalist and host of the podcast Cold. Don't miss Cold's new Season 3, where I look into the unsolved disappearance of Cherie Warren, a woman last seen leaving her job at a Salt Lake City office in 1985. Police cast suspicion on Cherie's estranged husband and boyfriend, but never made any arrests or recovered Cherie's remains. Find Cold Season 3, The Search for Cherie, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Hey, it's Casey Scott. You're getting ready for another episode of Project Recovery. This issue deals with pornography, and it is a little descriptive and some adult language used. If you have young kids, I suggest you listen to it first before allowing them to. So, we've talked to you, Jacob, a little bit, starting at 11, 21, you've talked to your bishop, you've talked to your wife, but you're still in recovery. So how long does it go on? How long has it been going on? I mean, how long have you been in recovery? So
recovery started really for me was when I went into Desert Solace, and that's a pornography-based inpatient facility down in St. George. And I felt like that's when I equate that to my sober date, is that date that I went in. And that's when I started, becoming aware of my issues and
What
shame.
year was that?
That was this year.
Oh, really?
Yep. It was February of this year.
So you've been battling addiction for
35 years. Yep.
And so from that time that you went and spoke with your bishop and told your wife about the issue, that's 20, now we're talking over 20 years between then and now. Tell us a little bit about that journey, and were there periods of, we'd call it sobriety or non-use, and then were there periods of relapse?
Yes. So, after I went to the bishop, I felt like I was really going to be that person that I needed to be for her and show up for her, and I had a period of abstinence through there. And then I used work to basically be that for me. I would work so much that it was something that took away from that use, but just turned it into
What
work.
did that do for you? Like, why did you work so much?
It just, a failure of or not a failure, but wanting to succeed and do better for my family. At that point we had 5 kids. Yeah, we had 5 kids, all girls. Okay. And, trying to provide, letting her stay home and providing for her family. I felt like I just kept myself busy a lot.
So it distracted your mind.
Right.
But it was also maybe a compensatory behavior, like you trying to compensate for this bad thing that you had in your life, and say,
Yep.
well, I can give her this concrete solace of a home and money, and
right.
if I work my tail off. But what effect did that have on you, working so much?
I found that it worked for a little bit, but then the stress of all that
builds up its own stress, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then I would go right back into my addiction and have periods of, it was just a wave. I'd do well for a little bit, and then it would be boom, 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 and it would be constant. Mm-hmm. And, hiding that from her through all that period of time was exhausting. But
really, with 5 kids at home, you were getting some business, some loving at home.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it was just the image and the built up that I had.
Now, Dr. Matt will stop me if this is a stupid question because I ask him a lot. But were they 2 different kinds of relationships? There was a relationship with your wife, and then there was a relationship with porn.
It's a great question.
And could you differentiate between the 2?
I think the one bled into the other, because I would expect, an expectation that, we would do these things, right? And when
things you were seeing in pornography,
right,
you wanted to try with
correct,
your wife.
Yep. Okay. And so then it bled over that, and then when she didn't want to, I felt rejected, and it was this just cycle of that type of.
And I think that's a great question. They do affect each other, definitely. I think most people that are in recovery or going through addiction of pornography will tell you that they feel extra horrible that their wife feels rejected or not good enough, because they recognize that often the pornography use is this private thing that they do to reduce their own stress. By the time you've been doing it for 20 or 30 years, it's something that a person does alone, in private. They revisit their shameful feelings. In a strange way, a depressed mind wants validation of its depression. Mm-hmm. And so that's why when we're depressed, we will often do things that are self-sabotaging. And so depression comes from shame and feeling shameful about yourself. Here you are, you feel shameful because you know it's hurtful to your wife. You have 5 daughters that you want to take good care of. You're overworking, so stress and shame are still a big part of your life. And so going off over here in private to reduce your stress and also validate your own shame. Isn't that a strange cycle that our brains get into? And that can become something that builds and builds over time. But because, again, it becomes so private, it's easier in some ways, I think, to hide a pornography addiction than it is a substance abuse addiction.
Trichelle, let me ask you this question. Did you feel cheated on?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like he was cheating on you with porn. I mean, would you equate that? I mean, to me, in my mind, it sounds like cheating, but I don't know if it really is.
Well, I think most people would say yes, it is cheating. But why did you feel like it was?
For me, it really was. Yeah. These were, because in my eyes, I didn't look at it as actors. I was looking at it as this is who he wants.
Mm-hmm. And there is a type of relationship that a person builds. It sounds strange to use that term, I think, but you build a relationship with pornography, and it is your own unique relationship. And so in that sense, it is cheating because you have this extramarital, intimate relationship that's very unhealthy.
Can I ask you a hard question?
Yeah.
Why did you stay? It's okay.
Because I knew what his potential was, and I knew the real him. I knew that wasn't him.
I'm glad you stayed, and I'm sure Jacob is glad, but for somebody out there, that's a lot to put on yourself.
Yeah, it was. And I honestly thought that if I could love him enough, I could have the power to change his internal beliefs about himself. I could do that for him, and that's just not true. But I didn't realize that until this year.
I think that's true with all addiction. I think we all think we would want to be that person or be able to do that for somebody.
If we're just kind enough or supportive enough or loving enough that it'll turn the person's addiction around, but we know it's not how it works.
Well, and to be fair to him, I never, in all the years up until this last year, showed him or even told him how it affected me or made me feel at all.
Why not?
Yeah.
Because I was worried about him.
What effect did you worry it would have on him if you were honest about your feelings?
I didn't know if he could handle it. I thought it would crush him, and I didn't want to be the one that crushed anybody. I didn't want to make him feel the way I felt.
Mm.
Were you worried he'd leave?
I'm sure that played into it. I'm sure it's, more or less, I was more worried because I did know his internal beliefs about himself, and I don't think he recognized them, but I did. I knew what they were. I knew he'd had enough of believing those, and I was not going to be the person that added to that.
So, you got tears in your eyes, Jacob. I can see you. What was the rock bottom for you that you decided I need help, and you went to this place in St. George?
So it kind of started with I was in January, January 24th. My boss came to me and basically told me that they were going to step me down from my position. And
was the pornography affecting your work? I mean,
so as I look back now, I definitely know that it did.
And I can say the same about my drinking.
Yeah, I wasn't my best self for my associates and for the boss and the people that I worked for. I wasn't. Now, I never looked at it during work and did all that, but it still affected me. And I know that I wasn't the best self for them.
Was your boss asking you to step you down because of the addiction, or was it just because you weren't able to do your job at the standard he wanted you to?
Yes. It was that I couldn't take the store into the future and be able to manage it. And so he felt like that was, at that point, was time to do something about it. And so that's when it started. Right that day, I was devastated. I've worked all my life to be where I was at. I put my heart and soul into it. And for them to tell me, again, I wasn't good enough. And so I went to a place where I was trying to reach out, couldn't get her and couldn't get my best friend and my stake president, and I just felt like I was way alone. And so I dropped off my phone and my watch at the store and told them to give them to one of my friends there. And I drove up to my parents' house, and that's where I had my guns. I got my gun, and I went to a place out in Great Salt Lake that no one should have known where I was at. It was a dirt road that nobody, if you're looking for me, you couldn't see me. And I was going to go kill myself. And thank goodness to a friend of mine that had inspiration and kind of went straight to me. And
wow.
Yeah.
So you're out there on this deserted road, ready to end your life, and you look in the rearview mirror and...
Well, I'd actually fallen asleep, and he, in his big diesel truck, drove up right next to me. Didn't hear him come at all. You know, I didn't see any dust. I kind of woke up, but I was looking forward, and all of a sudden he knocks on my window and opens the door, and he says, if you don't believe in God, then I'm here to tell you that he is real.
Whoa.
Because I drove right to you. So, and then that started my, went into uni for about 10 days.
There.
Yeah. And then after that, with advice of my counselor and that I felt, or she felt like I needed to go into a facility. And it was more around a depression and killing myself, but knowing that I had this addiction. And that's when I said, I need to go down somewhere that's going to help me with pornography. I think that's where it all stems, my depression and all that.
So in uni, and for the listeners, that's the University of Utah's Neuropsychiatric Institute, an inpatient facility that helps with a lot of mental health related and substance abuse and other addictions. You finally really came clean to the counselor and really spilled it all there?
So it wasn't to them there, but to my counselor, or my therapist that I was seeing.
But you talked about it enough.
Yeah.
That you find. So you were seeing a counselor outside of uni?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And they helped you.
Yeah, she helped me to realize that I needed to get some help. She had been in the addiction world and knew that I had an addiction, mm-hmm. and that it was something that I needed some pretty drastic measures to try to get myself out of it.
What was it like when you first just unloaded everything off of your chest?
It was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. It really was, and that happened prior to me going to treatment, but I went to my bishop at that point and told him everything. Like, there was nothing that I left out.
Can I ask, did pornography lead you to any other sexual acting out behaviors?
Yes. Unfortunately, I did have an affair, and it was recently, and that was part of, her journey of what she went through, and the trauma that she went through, knowing that. And, it's a progressive.
I was going to say, oftentimes people feel a strong need to continue to feed their addiction. And so places like strip clubs, escorts, those sorts of things become part of the landscape of a pornography addiction.
Yeah. I am fortunate enough to say that I never went down that route, but I did. I had an affair, and it was just part of that addiction, not thinking that, she was giving me what I needed. I saw this pornography as something that should be real, and it led to that. So,
You're listening to Project Recovery. More of Jacob and Trichelle's story coming up.
A stranger with a gun came upon 2 teens taking pictures under a rising full moon. But violence is only the beginning of this story.
Sometimes I thought, there are no miracles. Yeah, there are, and this is a big one.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and I've spent my career talking about how lives are undone by violence. The Letter is a podcast about how lives are remade. Follow The Letter at theletterpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
So what does a recovery center that deals in pornography look like? How do they deal with that?
So it was interesting because my first month or so really wasn't anything about pornography. It was about getting to the root problem, my internal belief system, and trying to understand that that's not really who I am. That I was good enough, and I wasn't stupid. Just because I have a hard time reading out loud, that I'm not stupid because of that. Because I can do a lot of things really well. Just I can't read very well, unfortunately. And so,
and that's a common thing. Reading is such a basic skill in our education system that a lot of academic self-esteem for kids and adults is based in our ability to read. And so it, unfortunately, in your mind, negates all the other amazing qualities and skills a person might have if you struggle with reading. And it sounds like that was still an issue for you.
Because that's the one you focus on.
Yeah.
You said the first month you didn't even deal with that. How long were you there?
90 days.
Is that a typical stay for pornography addiction?
That's what they recommend, and that's what they try to push you to. They do have a 45-day and a 60-day.
Was that daunting to agree to stay 90 days? That's a long time.
Yeah, it was a long time, and it was a lot of money. Yeah. And it was something that now looking back on it, it was where I'm at now because of it. I feel like if I didn't go into that treatment center, I'd still be in my addiction heavily.
What was helpful in that center for you? What things stand out in your mind as the things that really helped?
Is there something you do daily to keep you on the straight and narrow?
Yeah. So obviously we had therapy sessions and
talking about those self-concept issues and helping you what we call reframe beliefs about yourself.
Yep. And in there I was introduced to EMDR, and I felt like that was a big help for me.
And what's that?
Eye movement desensitization reprocessing. I always
Thanks,
forget
Trichelle.
the R. Tricia saved me.
And so, did you do any counseling as well, Trichelle?
Oh, yeah. I actually started counseling when I found out about the affair because it took me to the road that I ended up in uni for a week because I tried to end my life about, 4 or 5 months before he did his.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. But, yeah, I've
So
gone to therapy
you went
a
to
lot
uni
longer.
because of a suicide attempt, And that was because of this distress over finding out about his affair?
So we were living in Layton. This job had actually taken us down to Draper. And all of our kids now are married except for one. She wanted to finish at Layton High, so we left her up there with his sister, and we moved down. I'd gone from a family of 6 girls, grandbaby, sons-in-laws that were at our house every day, to sitting in a house by myself because he was working around the clock and knee-deep in his addiction, probably neck-deep in the addiction, And so I felt like I had nothing else, and I was just...
Yeah, it's a pretty
if I
empty
just
nest,
went
lonely
away,
place to be.
Then everybody else could keep going.
I don't know if this is going to sound right, but it's comforting how open and honest you
Yeah.
guys are about this conversation. I mean, it really is. I mean, I sit there and I go, it's great that you guys are able to communicate like this and talk so openly, because I really think so many people out here hearing this are going to go, yes, okay, finally someone's talking about it. And that's what this podcast is about, to open up a conversation. And I think you guys are doing just wonderful things. So how are you guys today?
We are great. I felt like I understand, through treatment and all that I understand what true intimacy is, and connection, and showing up for her in our lives, and trying to be the best version of I can be, and ultimately being my word. And that's what I feel like I came out of Desert Solace with, is that I've always felt I was like an honest person. But when I started really examining it, I was not an honest person. I was never my word. I misdirected and manipulated situations and was dishonest. And coming out of there, I learned that I wanted to be my word.
I think we've got a great opportunity here for you to talk to some people who might be suffering an addiction with pornography right now. What would you say to those people right now?
First of all, I would go and get some counseling. I would get some help from a CSTAT therapist.
What's a CSTAT therapist?
That's a sexual addiction therapist.
He knew. He was just testing you.
I know.
I just want the people to know that there are people out there that are certified in this area to work with people.
Yeah. And get with that counselor. And then the next would be get the courage to come to a meeting, whether it's an SA meeting or an ARP meeting through the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they have specific ones for pornography. And I've found that in that group and having connection is a key to somebody's success. So I'd say get to a meeting, and you can look it up online, and they have so many all over the place that you can pretty much find one every night of the week.
And they're free.
Yep, they're free.
And very inviting for people to join.
Yeah.
And Trichelle, what would you say to somebody whose spouse or loved one is suffering from a pornography addiction?
I would say that the biggest thing is that there is hope for them. It might be a long road, but you do need help, and you can't be silent about it. I know that looking back, I know I can't go back, but I would have loved to have known what I know now that much earlier, so that I could have had the courage to step out and say something, because we did not talk to anyone, no one, until I had my uni stand, and our kids were freaking out because we were the best hiders around. Nobody knew. And so I think even if your loved one's not in recovery, you need to find somebody to talk to.
Dr. Matt?
Well, I appreciate both of you being so open and honest. This may be an unfair question, but how, if you look at part of this story today obviously is about an addiction in the process and the toll it takes on the development of a person's sense of who they are and a family structure, but it's also about your marriage. And like I said, many marriages do not continue on through things like pornography addiction and affairs. Would you say that this is one of the best periods in your marriage? And if so, what are you doing to make it that way?
Yes, I 100% believe that this is the best that we've been for each other. And that's
saying a lot. You started dating when you were 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're both showing up in this relationship being the best self. I had a sponsor tell me that when you put recovery first, you're able to be the best father or husband, and being in recovery is how you do that.
And Trichelle, do you feel like, Casey? You answered Casey's question by saying you didn't leave him because you saw his potential. Is he reaching his potential?
His wheels are spinning, and he definitely is reaching that potential.
And do you feel like this is a happy part how do you feel about this part of your marriage?
It's really happy, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, we're only a year,
less than
9 months, out of Desert Solace, and we've both done a ton of recovery work through Desert Solace and through our 12-step meetings. We're both still, I go to 3, he goes to 4 a week. We eat, drink, and sleep recovery. And I do have PTSD.
Sure.
And it's pretty intense sometimes. But the beauty that I've found in it is because we're both working our recoveries is when either one of us is triggered at this point, we can come to each other with the hard stuff. I can say, you know what, Jake, I'm triggered. This is really upsetting me, where before I would have said not, because I was afraid that just saying what needed to be said would make him go to this place of shame.
So you're walking around on eggshells.
Absolutely. Guess what? Now I can tell him whatever I need to. He doesn't have to take it on, and he can sit with me through it and say, I'm so sorry you're feeling that way. And same with me. And just being able to release those things really quick doesn't let the tension build up in our marriage anymore. It's just not there. We're still walking that road of recovery. We're still learning how and what it looks like completely, but we're definitely on the way up.
Well, it's amazing to have you guys both on the show, and thank you so much for your candid honesty, and I hope that you can continue. I think you bring up a really great point, and that is that you're new to recovery, but you're doing it together. That's one positive prognostic indicator, and the other one is the frequency of going to meetings and getting support and therapy. So I feel if you'll do those things, stay together on the journey and keep the frequency high of your recovery, you'll be successful. And I hope that other people take this as a story of hope, because so many marriages are negatively affected by pornography just here in the state of Utah. It's a sad thing to see a marriage negatively affected, and it's great to see the two of you working together.
And Jacob, Trichelle, I'd love to have you guys keep in touch with us and let us know how it goes. And I think a lot of people are going to be helped by you sharing your stories today. So thank you for being so honest, so open, so raw.
And I just want to mention
brave
that I feel underdressed. You have a fancy shirt on, and they color coordinated today, and I'm just looking like my regular self.
You know what we call that?
What's that?
A turd in a punch bowl. Hey, thank you for listening to Project Recovery. If you know somebody who needs some help, have them do what I did and give Pinnacle Recovery Center a call. This is a KSL podcast.